is the most, I am officially the most hated person in the neighborhood moment you've ever experienced. This happened shortly after I moved into a quiet little cul-de-sac in suburban Virginia. The neighborhood looked like something straight out of a real estate commercial. Perfect lawns, spotless sidewalks, white picket fences, and neighbors who waved politely, but somehow always seemed to know everything happening on the block. There was even a neighborhood watch group that felt less like community safety and more like a low-budget intelligence agency. Since I was the new person on the street, I really wanted my house to make a good impression. I decided my garden would be my pride and joy. I spent almost $300 on rare blue hydrangeas, carefully planted them along the front walkway, watered them, and stepped back to admire my work like I was auditioning for a home and garden magazine. That night, I went to bed feeling incredibly proud of myself. The next morning, I walked outside with my coffee and immediately froze. My flower bed looked like a disaster zone. Dirt was everywhere. Half the hydrangeas were shredded. It honestly looked like a tiny furry tornado had ripped through my yard during the night. As I stood there trying to process the destruction, I looked up and spotted the culprit sitting calmly on my front walkway. It was a scruffy gray and white cat with one ear missing and a permanent grumpy expression. He looked like the kind of cat that had survived multiple street fights, 3 winters, and possibly a lightning strike. He stared at me with the confidence of someone who clearly did not care about my landscaping budget. Naturally, I did what every modern suburban resident does when facing a crisis. I opened the neighborhood app. Now, most people might post something simple like, "Hey, does anyone know whose cat this is?" But I was annoyed about my flowers. And instead of writing a polite message, I ended up writing what can only be described as a manifesto. My post said, "Attention neighbors, there is a stray, highly aggressive, and frankly quite ugly cat roaming around the street. This animal just destroyed my expensive landscaping. If anyone knows who Stinky the stray belongs to, please come get your beast before I call animal control. We have standards here." I hit post, put my phone down, and went into the kitchen to make coffee, feeling oddly satisfied with myself. About 5 minutes later, my phone started vibrating so violently on the counter that it nearly slid onto the floor. Ping, 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 ping. I opened the app and immediately realized something had gone very wrong. The first comment said, "How dare you?" The second comment said, "You must be new here. That is not a stray, that is Barnaby." The third comment said, "Barnaby is a neighborhood treasure and has lived on this block longer than you have." Within minutes, the post completely exploded. People started uploading pictures of this cat sitting on their porches. Someone posted an old video of him chasing away a coyote 3 years earlier. Another neighbor wrote an entire paragraph explaining how Barnaby had comforted them during the pandemic by sitting outside their window every morning. Meanwhile, I was being labeled things like the heartless hydrangea lady and the cat-hating newcomer. Then the comment that truly ended my piece appeared. It was from Mrs. Gable. Mrs. Gable had apparently lived in the neighborhood since 1974 and was currently the treasurer of the Homeowners Association. From what I gathered in the comments, she was also the proud owner of Barnaby and possibly the most powerful person on the entire block. Her message was short, all caps. "I will be at your front door in 10 minutes to discuss my beast." 10 minutes later, I heard a knock. I looked through the peephole and nearly passed out. Standing on my porch was Mrs. Gable, an 80-year-old woman with the posture of a retired military general and the expression of someone preparing for battle. Behind her stood 3 other neighbors on the sidewalk, watching the situation like a medieval crowd waiting for a duel to begin. Mrs. Gable was holding a small bag of cat treats. I opened the door very slowly. She calmly explained that Barnaby was not a stray, but the neighborhood's unofficial mascot. According to her, he had protected the block from raccoons, snakes, and one suspicious fox over the past 2 decades. She then informed me that when Barnaby digs in someone's garden, he is not destroying it. He is, in her words, blessing the soil. She also added that my hydrangeas were technica.